Hey everyone, welcome. If everyone could make their way to their seats, we'll get started. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Doug, Director of the New York Tech Alliance, and your host for this evening. And joining us tonight as a co-host is wonderful Ms. Jian Horn. Jian is a contributor at Forbes, the founder and executive director of Give Beauty Wings, and a board member of the New York Tech Alliance. Most importantly, Jian is a dear friend and avid supporter, and in a few minutes, she'll share more about herself and the fabulous work she's doing. Before we get started, I have a few items to share with you. Please know that we record our events to share with everyone unable to attend. Recordings are posted on NYTA's YouTube channel. You can subscribe to our channel and view this and past recordings by going to youtube.com/NYTechAlliance. For anyone joining us for the first time, the New York Tech Alliance is a nonprofit organization serving the tech community here. And at the core of our mission, we drive access, equity, and inclusion to make New York tech ecosystem the most diverse and dynamic in the world. And to learn more about us and how to get involved, visit our website at nitech.org. And at each event, we strive to focus on a specific segment of our community. This evening, our spotlight is on the founders, creators, and myriad others in the disability tech space. So again, to learn more about us and how to get involved, visit our website at nitech.org. So how many of you are joining us for the first time, joining the New York Tech? Okay, wow. So for all of you joining us for the first time, our meetups are all about the tech and the market opportunities each company is addressing, not about the business or revenue models. Those conversations can be had during networking time or elsewhere. So during the Q&A following each demo, please keep questions focused on the tech and the problem or opportunity it's addressing. Otherwise, you're likely to get booed. Okay? All right. Thanks to our annual sponsors who help make events like this one possible. Each has a presence on our website. You can learn more about them and how they support our community by going to nitech.org/sponsors. And special thanks to the team here at Civic Hall for everything you guys do to help us deliver this event, and to our parent organization, the FedCap Group. If you're not aware of either, I encourage you to visit both websites noted on the screen. One, to learn more about what's going on here at Civic Hall and opportunities to be part of the community. And two, to learn about the extraordinary work related to workforce development and economic well-being that FedCap does to impact the lives of so many people here in New York and other parts of the world. I do want to give a special shout out to Arlene Gonzalez Sanchez, Executive Director of Easter Seals New York, another sister organization of Civic Hall and the Tech Alliance, serving individuals with disabilities. Arlene's going to be around afterwards. Arlene, can you raise your hand? Where are you? There you are. Arlene will be around afterwards during networking and available to chat. Okay. All right. Let's see. So in case you're not aware, or in case you aren't aware, the Civic Hall occupies floors 2 through 7 of this building. It's about 85,000 square feet. And in addition to meetings and events here, Civic Hall is home and host to many education partners who provide digital training skills to a wide range of people, and it also offers co-working space to the tech community. So Civic Hall is offering a free trial membership, and the next one begins June 1st. So if you'd like to take advantage of the offer, scan the QR code on the screen and just follow the application process. Okay. And last, we love and welcome support to help us produce and deliver our programming. 3 ways you can help us include attend as many events as you can, both in person and online, become an individual or corporate member or annual sponsor, or simply make a small donation or a big one. You can do so by going to nitech.org/support_NYTA. Okay, with that, please extend a warm welcome to Jian Horn, who will take it from here. Hey, Jian. Okay.
Please hold.
We're gonna,
Muting.
okay.
Oh my gosh. What an incredible group we have here. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful day. Thank you to Doug for that wonderful introduction. I thought I might level set by just sort of sharing with you sort of my connection to tech first, but also how did I even become an advocate? I was an only child of artists who taught me anything was possible, and I believed them. I consider my disability the blessing of my life, but I lived in a bubble where I didn't realize that my friends and contemporaries were suffering, and all the institutional barriers that generations before me had to endure for me to be able to say, hey, I cut the lines at Disney World and the airport, and people don't forget me, and I love my life. And I think it wasn't until my second job ever at a place called Visible Theater, where there were 15 members total, 45 members total, 15 with disabilities, actors, studio actors, Kennedy Center award-winning playwrights writing about suicide attempts or hating their bodies. And that was when I realized we need to have positive dialogue around our existence, but also once I became aware of the barriers that we face, it became very personal. And I was the most stage-frightened person you could possibly imagine. But when I realized it wasn't about me and that there were lives at stake, that's really what got me really motivated to do this work. And I'm not a technologist, but one of the first things that I did do is I judged an assistive technology competition through AT&T called the Connectability Challenge, where more than half of the developers here today I met through that challenge. So I'm so excited to be able to celebrate them. And the first, and I want to say something also, because Give Beauty Wings would not be possible without, I think we can go. Give Beauty Wings really is focused on the empowerment of people with disabilities, but also leadership and access. And that's accessible tech, that's transportation. So I wanted to take a moment to also thank Accessible Dispatch, who is and they have a table back there. If you want to talk to Stephen later, that would be great. They have an app for Accessible Dispatch, as well as you can call a number. I have it memorized because it's pretty easy, 646-599-9999. And that is the most salesy I'm going to get today, I promise. Because the rest, I have to say that I'm just so thrilled to be a part of this community, to see people here who care about people having access to the most basic things like communication. And on that note, I think that's a perfect way to introduce Open Steno Project, Mirabai Knight, who's actually live captioning this whole thing and is going to explain why live captioning, not auto or AI captioning, is so important. Please, Mirabai Knight, come up. All right. Cheers. Okay.
Is this on? Yeah.
But I wouldn't touch the button.
Can I? Yeah. Aha. Okay. Hello. My name is Mirabai Knight, and I'm ordinarily a very fast speaker. Those of you who have heard me speak before would know this. Oh, that's Mirabai Knight, not Mirabai. But because I'm the only captioner this evening, I'm going to have to speak and caption simultaneously for my presentation, so please do bear with me. What I am currently writing on is a steno machine. And this particular steno machine is the end product of about 14 years of work. So I didn't make this thing. I'm not actually a computer programmer or a hardware developer. I'm just a stenographer and a nerd. And I love steno. I first started learning it in 2006. But it was first invented in 1911. And it is still the fastest, I'm getting used to this machine. I'm getting used to this machine still. It's still the fastest text entry method yet developed. I'm using all the same techniques that were used in 1911. But the only difference is that now a computer is translating these steno strokes that I'm writing into English instantaneously. So there's no fuzzy logic here. There's no AI. There's no predictive text or autocomplete or any of that. It's just me typing chords as if I were typing on a piano. And those chords are being run through a dictionary, and that dictionary is outputting English text. This is the machine.
Really cool.
You might have noticed that I was, have it noticed? No. You might have noticed that I am using a somewhat fancier machine over there for captioning the rest of the meetup. But that machine is worth about $4,000, and it's strictly for professionals. The machine that I'm typing on right now, however, you will be able to buy for about $300, maybe, $350. Yeah, now, it still takes a lot of practice, but it is the Open Center project, which I founded back in 2010, that made it possible for some brilliant young dude in Singapore to make this little machine and then start selling it all over the world. It outputs to a phone. It works via Bluetooth. It's currently writing via Bluetooth to my computer, and it's just sending regular English text as I write in steno. Oops, 92? No. Sorry, I got going a little fast there. English text as I write to a computer. The reason why random numbers keep coming up is that my fingers are not quite used to this layout yet, and they keep accidentally hitting the number bar, which converts the top layer of letters from letters into numbers. So I just need a little more practice with this tiny little machine to get my fingers to know where they're going. I'm going to end fairly soon because I want to leave time for questions. But I'll just say that steno is really fun. The software, instead of being $4,000, is now free. The hardware is ranging between free and a couple $100s. And we have a lovely free online learning community where people get together and learn and chat and write novels and write code and do everything in steno. And it's great. So I'm going to end here and open up for questions.
Thank you. I would imagine that there would be a lot of questions for Mirabai, so don't be shy. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to come?
Sure, just be loud.
Yeah.
Unless there's a Just be loud.
Enter kind of the age of, thank you.
Sure.
As we enter the age of text to picture, do you see relevance here? And will we ever be able to, not just with words, but with images, be able to do something similar or parallel so that when someone is speaking, not only will we get the verbal translation or that you're giving us, but some visual imagery as well in essentially real time for those of us who like to have visuals presented.
Well, as a word nerd, I can't really speak to that. I have no idea. It's a cool thing to think about, but I'm not sure it directly applies to Steno, so I think I'll punt it to a more knowledgeable responder. Anyone else? Yes.
So, hi again.
Hey, oh yeah, we go. Okay, yeah,
So, updating the dictionary. I'm assuming
yeah,
Steno has its own dictionary, but you can update it to your own preferences.
yeah.
Is that based on language, based on the kind of thing that you're typing, or and can you contextually switch between dictionaries while you type?
That's a great question. I call Steno a phonetic mnemonic text input method because part of it is simply just writing the words the way that they sound. But as you know, English has a wacky orthographic system, and there are always going to be lots of exceptions to the way words sound. And to accommodate those exceptions, you have to sort of come up with workarounds. And those will vary based on how you encode things in your own brain. So each stenographer will sort of learn their own internal schema for encoding and then retrieving information, and encode new steno strokes accordingly so that they're most memorable to them in particular. So each stenographer has their own dictionary, basically. Yes?
Hi, thank you for the really fascinating presentation. Question on the device that you were using, and you mentioned you worked where someone in Singapore opted to design what you were building.
Yeah.
To what degree did you consult on that, and what is your role in the Open Steno project? Kind of day to day, or as you build out the community.
So it's all kind of miraculous. I just wanted to stop using the broken, annoying $4,000 proprietary Steno software that I had bought a few years earlier, and I wanted an open source option to exist. And so I found some people and kind of gave them a little money, and then they got so excited that they basically started building the rest of the project for free. And then more people joined, and more people built more stuff, and people started building hardware and games and drilling tools and like gathering a whole community around them. And I have had to do very little, but I switched over from the proprietary software to the free software like back in 2011. And I just haven't looked back. So I'm kind of a figurehead. I'm the person who got the ball rolling. I got it off the ground, but I don't do that much of the work. I just reap the benefits. Yes.
Hi, thank you so much. Could you tell us about some of the coolest applications you've seen of the Open Steno project?
Well, I've written 3 novels in Steno. I know some people who use Plover, which is the free software arm of the Open Steno project, to caption in multiple languages simultaneously. Steno also allows people who can't use their voices to speak to type as quickly as they can think. It's very good for human-computer interfacing, for sending commands, signals, you name it. And of course, captioning, which is what I do every day. And you'll see more of that as the evening goes on.
So Mirabai, I'm going to take my power as co-host here, and Doug will forgive me later. I did want to make sure that you answer this question directly. Why a human live captioner versus AI or auto captions on Zoom, etc.?
Because humans understand language and they can bring in outside knowledge and contextualize and make much more educated guesses when sound input is ambiguous. And so they're able to offer, I mean, I try to offer 99.91% accuracy, which is an error once every 4 pages, not with this thing, because I'm still getting used to it. But if you look over there, I'm pretty good. 99%, which is considered good for a computer, means an error about every 2 or 3 sentences. So there's a big difference between 99% accuracy, which still many computers fail at, and 99.91%, which requires discernment and comprehension of actual semantic meaning and context of what's being spoken.
Amazing. I just thought that was important to address. Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. Mirabai Knight, everyone. Oh, do you have an ask?
Just, my ask is learn Steno if you think it sounds cool.
Nice. Awesome. All right. I like that. To the point. All right. Well, I'm really excited. I think this is the perfect time to bring up another one of my faves, Thomas Logan here, who I met through, once I was a part of AT&T Connectability Challenge, I was asked to speak at a meetup called A11Y or A11Y, that stands for Accessibility, New York, and got to meet not only Thomas, but realize one of our other presenters was a co-founder. Now, what I love about Thomas, and I know you're dying to get started, Thomas, but I just have to sing your praises. First of all, I love Thomas has such a commitment in a similar vein to Mirabai. There are a lot of things called overlays that people think make websites accessible. But there's nothing, again, to Mirabai's point, like having a human that cares to do it for you. And Thomas, with Equal Entry, does not only makes websites accessible, but he strives to make all tech accessible. And he's going to share what he's up to with all of you. And thank you for being my favorite person. Okay, love you. Bye.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Minasama, hajimemashite. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Watashi no name wa Thomas Logan desu. Watashi no presentation no tema wa Poli desu. Okay, so I started my presentation off in poorly spoken Japanese. Maybe someone here in the audience speaks Japanese, but I wanted to start off the presentation with this idea that following on from Mirabai's presentation, captions are so important. But when we work in a global environment, it's this idea, too, of considering how can we have captions available in other languages, especially in a person's native language, to fully participate and understand in the conversation. So I got to really live this. I lived in Tokyo for 4 years. I had been in New York doing accessibility meetup with Mirabai Knight and Cameron Kundif, where I met Xian, for many years before that. So I had an expectation of the accessibility for my meetup. And when I moved to Tokyo, I realized I'm going to be having an audience that some people speak English and some people speak Japanese. And I wouldn't say this is unique to Japan, but it's probably unique to the idea of working in any country where English is not going to be the primary language. So I think, first point, listening to someone speak a language you don't understand is boring and confusing. Also, you'll probably fall asleep if I was doing that for like, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. But I actually had to do an entire presentation in English one time to an audience that only spoke French for about 50 minutes. So pretty much my experience was seeing people just asleep.
Oh, no.
Yeah, horrible.
Not today.
But, this is really like this point of inclusion. This is, the whole idea of captioning and transcript for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. Even in the native language, we need to have this access to make inclusion possible. And my talk today is just really also thinking about working in a multilingual or global situation. How can we be more inclusive? So how can we improve the experience? Well, by default, the normal presentation style in Japan would be to hire a human translator. So you would have a translator standing with you, or like here, they would be on the stage with me. And everything that I say, they would also need to repeat. So to make that inclusion, we have to actually make that possible. So everyone to participate and understand, we need a human translator if you're presenting in English in Japan. So I started this meetup in Japan called A11Y Tokyo with Makoto Ueki-san, and we started holding events and exploring how to be inclusive to a Japanese and English audience. Our first event, I would talk for like 1 minute or 2 minutes, and then Kenji Yanagawa would speak and translate into Japanese. So if my presentation was 20 minutes long, it's going to take 20 minutes of speaking in English and 20 minutes of speaking in Japanese, roughly. So, that's difficult just for like a lot of people in the audience. It's very like, I guess, frustrating sometimes to be listening to like half of the conversation not in the language you understand. So to improve that, we asked the question, can we use AI? And, we always are aiming for like 100% accuracy when we're presenting in our native language. And so this is just whole point of how I developed my product was we have to have a human captioner, Mirror by Night, who we've known for 10 years, in our native language, and then we can use a system to improve the translation of the AI that's translating it into another language. So the benefit of using AI is it can be real-time and displayed on the screen. And another point, I think if we look at like maybe English to Spanish or more common translation patterns, they work kind of well, but Japanese translation from English, it's very flawed. And you can find it with like almost any default example. So we made this product Polly, P-O-L-L-Y, and it's a parrot with our mascot Nomo wearing an eye patch. But our idea was to be able to host events in 2 languages in Japan. So basically to do this, and I was gonna try to do this live, but it's very difficult. But I want you guys to see that very similar to this display up at the top of the screen, this is 3 lines of text. Mirabai is transcribing what I'm speaking onto the screen into these 3 lines. Additionally, the website that we built for Polly shows more like 10 lines of text, and this is because we need to account for the time of correcting the translation of the translated language. And additionally, in this app, I can customize it to only show one language or another. So if you were working with this app in a room that had multiple screens, you could customize the app to work that way. And the core secret here is like really not high tech, but I really was aiming for simplicity. We wanted to be able to invite people to a Google Doc who spoke Japanese to be able to correct the AI translation. So basically what you see on the screen here is I have a Google Doc that connects to our application Polly, where we get the live stream text from Mirabai into the document in real time. The translation comes in real time, and a person who speaks Japanese can look at the translation. Let me just show an example. If this was wrong, you could actually correct that line and retype it. And so this actually happens within the space of like 10 lines being displayed. And just want to like, again, I know this is like hard to imagine or conceptualize, but it's the idea of this topic is that most of you all in the room would be speaking like another language. Oh, I lost the caption. One of you all will be speaking like another language or like common language. We would be setting this up where I'm the presenter. We have the human captioner, Mirabai Knight, who translates my spoken voice into English at a high quality. We use AI to translate that into another language, and we use a human translator, Kenji Yanagawa, who speaks both English and Japanese to correct the translation in real time. And so I believe this is like more efficient in the sense of like now you don't have to stop the presentation and take twice as long. You can present in real time and have the captions displayed in both languages. And so again, that's our goal, enable humans and AI to work together to make a great experience for everyone. And so this is sort of our first process with that is like how could we enable humans to contribute in and correct the mistakes of AI, but also take the benefit of AI to make something more accessible that we couldn't do before. And I'm at my time, so I just want to like end with some of the experiences I had in Japan, you know, and part of what I think is so important about enabling this type of functionality, we want to have cross-cultural dialogue. So this is Eiko Komura-san, who was one of the first lawmakers in the House of Councilors in Japan to be elected as a person with a severe disability. Her being elected actually caused their equivalent of the US Senate to be configured for wheelchair ramps, accessible bathrooms. They had none of that before she won her seat in the representation. And from meeting her, she told me that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, she was trying to get volunteers to help her on different accessibility initiatives in Japan, and she got no volunteers. And you know, my goal is, hey, I would want to volunteer. There's a lot of people that come to our events that would want to volunteer. If we can enable this communication, we can open up to like foreigners in Japan can contribute the same way that Japanese people can, and we can like share these ideas together. And now my ask offer, if you want to use Poly, you can contact me at contact@equalentry.com. We really built this more as a solution for making sure our meetup was accessible, but we are interested if you're interested in discussing how you could use it. And then also pointing out that the Accessibility New York City meetup is sort of the cornerstone of the work that myself and Cameron have done in the city for organizing accessibility events. We would love to have you participate. If you've never been to an event, our next event is June 4th at 7:30 p.m. and we'll be talking about leveling the playing field toward equivalently accessible video game worlds with Vishnu Nair. And it'll be very cool, video game accessibility, new topic that we haven't had at our meetup before. I'm Tech Thomas on my social media, and my company is Equal Entry, so we do a lot of things around helping support accessibility. Not just captioning and translation, really interested in any way to use technology to make the world more accessible to people with disabilities. So you can reach out to me there. Thank you.
Love saving time here. Questions? I feel like it's a very New York app. If anyone that can save time on presentations, that's a great thing. Thank you, Thomas. We love you.
Hello, thank you. Great presentation. I also speak another language, and I'm truly fascinated by the idea of having both thoughts in your head at the same time. Can you speak a little bit to why there has to be both a stenographer and another party somewhere else correcting the AI, and why that's important?
Sure. Basically, we had to build this because the technology we were using in Japan was just using AI, and it was, to me, comical. Like, you can't take this seriously to actually hold a meeting and actually expect people not speaking Japanese. For example, if you were relying on the English auto-translation of their Japanese, you really could only have the high-level topic idea. And so flawed AI on the English side or Japanese side just makes more flawed on the translated side. And so this is really our experience, is when we did this experiment with Mirabai having very good English, as you said, 99.91%, sometimes 100, I think. But when we did that, the Japanese translation was already that much better from our experience. And then the volunteers or the people correcting it had way less work. When we used AI, it's almost like every single line you have to correct. And so that's kind of getting to the point of not even being realistic to use when it's that much mistakes.
Thomas, you can call on.
Hi. So my country speaks 21 languages. It's a very difficult job to convert all of this into multiple languages when somebody of note speaks. There is some work done on this of this nature back at home. What I would like to understand is the amount of work it would take for Poly to build support for another language, wherein we would still translate in English, and English speaker would be translating to another language. Because if you're using AI, you need to be able to do that conversion, or do those models already exist?
Okay. Depending on the language model you use or the API you use, different languages are supported. And again, it's another, US privilege of English is always supported in every single platform, but depending on where you live in the world, some platforms support more languages than others. So I think that's definitely a barrier there. It's like, depending on the technology you choose, we're using Google's API actually in the Poly demo. But even with that, the other point that I thought was important to raise is, I guess for the model of Poly, you should probably be expecting your audience to primarily be speaking another language, like a specific language, because otherwise you're going to be using AI for all the other languages, and I think you'll still have the same problem of the quality's not that great. Again, it depends always, I guess, anywhere in the world. This language translated to this language, how does it work? But as I said, for Japan, which is like my core understanding, it was such poor quality that it was really like, you can't rely on that. And so I would say it'd be like an interesting experiment with any other language too, just to see how much correction needs to be done.
I know there were a couple more hands and people eager to talk to you, Thomas, but we do have some networking hours. So I ask anyone that has more questions for Thomas to hold it until a little later, just because we want to make sure we can get to this. I mean, you were so amazing that we went over, because we wouldn't want to rush your good stuff. But I would love to take this time, and since you mentioned A11Y, my favorite accessibility meetup of all time, and the biggest in New York City, by the way, which you did not mention, but I just wanted to take the time to introduce Thomas's co-founder of A11Y, Cameron Cundiff, who was the first person to talk to me ever about alt text when I was judging the AT&T Connectability Challenge. He was the only one that talked to all four of us judges to find out our lived experience needs, and that's why it doesn't surprise me that he got our top prize for an app he created, actually providing alt text for Twitter at the time. And I'm very proud to announce that he's going to share now something that he's continued in that tradition. Cameron Cundiff, come to the floor.
Hi, everyone. Here it is. Wow. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. I know many of you know us from the meetup, the accessibility meetup, and so it's good to be in a new space with additional new faces. So I started AccessLint a few years ago. AccessLint tests web content in GitHub for accessibility issues, but that's not what I'm here today to talk to you about. There's something I've been working on recently called Image Describer. Image Describer is a Chrome extension that uses AI to describe images for people who are blind. Does this using generative AI and vision APIs using Gemini, Google Gemini's artificial intelligence. The motivations here are that there are over 40 million people worldwide who are blind, and 120,000 of them are in New York State alone. People with disabilities rely disproportionately on technology for not just day-to-day living, but also things that I might consider convenient. Someone with a severe disability would have a more serious reliance upon. And people with disabilities are often excluded from this technology because of unconscious or even conscious decision-making around technology providers. There are techniques to address this in the content at authoring time. So many of you have heard of alt text, a way of describing images in the HTML for people who are blind. This is often omitted. Either it's deemed decorative, so there's an exclusion under the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines for decorative images, which can be abused. And furthermore, even if you are not malicious about those decisions, you might just not know. So Image Describer fills in those gaps by using AI to describe those images. Here's an example of using Image Describer on a Figma flowchart.
Loading.
So I right-clicked on the image and requested a description, and a side panel came out.
This image is a flowchart that provides a decision tree for what to do based on the weather.
And I'm typing a follow-up question: what should I do if it's raining? Can't read this text very well. And it says if it's raining, bring an umbrella. And that's based on the content of the flowchart. Now that's sort of a more serious example. There's wide-ranging use cases for this kind of technology. So for example, memes. This is an example of Sherry Byrne-Haber's website. She creates a lot of accessibility-related memes, all of which have alt text. But there's another layer of enrichment that you can have through this artificial intelligence descriptions. So here, this is basically a transliteration of the image. It says, a meme of Boromir from Lord of the Rings. I can't actually read it right now, but, and then and reading the text on the meme, and then there's a follow-up question of what is his expression. So he looks very serious. This is an added detail that I've recently introduced, is the ability to ask follow-up questions. This is a differentiator against traditional alt text, which would just be there and that's it. So being able to inquire into the image adds a new layer of conversation to this content. I've gotten really good feedback on the extension from both blind individuals and from content authors. Interestingly, this was a 4-star review, and despite having 5 exclamation points, I thought that was fun. I never understand how that works. In the future, very soon, I'm standing up integrations with document asset management systems so that those people who are using Image Describer today as actual alt text generation will be able to integrate it with Dropbox or Google Drive. My ask is that you download the extension, and yeah, I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Extra credit to Cameron because he was 4 minutes on the dot on that, so you win. Okay, yeah, questions for Cameron?
You have the mic in the front row.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, sorry, you can't see.
No problem.
In terms of this image description, are you doing it primarily for bar graphs, charts, or say, as a girl, you know, I like shopping, but I can't see it. So therefore, will it work? So if you open like a page, kind of like, I don't know, Target or Amazon, will it be the same thing in terms of the images, a girl wearing a pink shirt, blue, whatever, and it only tells you like the pants, the shirt. Can you do it so that it could describe it entirely?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
That was
that's
the.
what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, I get you. The screenshot in the Chrome extension landing page is of Etsy.com.
Okay.
And it describes one of their products, the text on the product, the color of the product, and with the ability to follow up and ask inquiry-based, like a free-form text field, you can drill in on that image. Things like Be My Eyes / Be My AI are in a similar space. They have kind of an inquiry-based model that's based on generative AI through OpenAI. This is spiritually similar in that it works in the browser, meeting people where they're at in the web browsing experience. So, yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Does this integrate with a screen reader?
Yes. So this uses Chrome's native text-to-speech engine for the purposes of low vision individuals who are not using a screener. However, the side panel in Chrome is WCAG compliant insofar as I could make it such. So when you use a screener with image describer, there's a ducking system between the audio tracks. So image describer will go to the background, and the screener will come to the foreground. And I've talked with screener users about this. Basically, the mechanism is you hit Control, and it'll pause your screen reader while the image is being described. Or you can actually navigate to the panel itself. There's an option to disable speech entirely.
It can't be injected into the HTML.
It can, but Chrome extensions permissioning models are restrictive in that regard.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm used to these. I was just wondering, you mentioned that obviously some websites do have alt text written into them. And in this case, it doesn't require the alt text. Did you find that the output of your extension is still better when there's high quality alt text, or it isn't impacted either way?
This is not meant to be a one-to-one replacement for alt text. I think it's the responsibility of content authors to describe their content professionally. However, there are places where it can augment alt text. And I found the quality anecdotally to be very good. Also, I would say that this doesn't actually replace the alt text in the HTML, to this gentleman's point. It is a layer on top of, or adjacent to alt text. Yes?
Could I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
So the AI, like when it scrapes or it reads the alt text, is the response from the AI smarter? Sort of meaning like if the alt text is there, is it also?
I see. The image describer doesn't know anything about the alt text in the page. It only knows about the image. So it's a parallel description. The ability to ask follow-up questions, it will take into account your question as well as the image as well as the initial description.
Okay, there's a gentleman right here. You're next, yes.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yes.
I was really interested about your criticism of the web content accessibility guidelines as a non-accessibility professional, but someone with just a touch of accessibility experience. That was really interesting to hear. Are there other shortcomings that you see with those guidelines?
Probably another topic for another day. But I will say that one of the original contributors to that guideline kind of expressed regret, because at the time when the guideline is that all images must have alternative text, essentially, except for text for images that are deemed decorative. At the time that it was authored, you had images of like rounded corners and drop shadows. That's no longer a practice on the web, but that's what it was intended for, and people now use it for like illustrations or icons or what have you. So that's what I meant when I criticized that specific criteria. I think I meant time.
Oh, well, you were also perfectly at time. No, and I think it reminds me a little bit of the ADA years ago in 1990. Transportation advocates made it so that you had to make accessible transportation available 1 to 2 days in advance, because in 1990 that was the best you could do. That was before apps exist, and now we are suffering because they just didn't know what was coming next. So I think that is very common. And just out of curiosity, before I pass it off to Doug again, how many people knew what alt text was before they got here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Nice.
impressed. Okay, who didn't know and who was happy they learned? Okay, amazing. All right, thank you, Cameron.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Access Link. Okay. Back to you, Doug.
Okay. Awesome work, Cameron. So next up, I'd like to introduce a sister company of Civic Hall and the Tech Alliance, FedCap VR. Joining us remotely for this demo is Harrison Oladros, Director of Innovation at FedCap VR, a sister company of Civic Hall and the New York Tech Alliance. And if the stars are aligned, we'll get this working. Oh my God, it works.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I think this has many applications even beyond disability. So that's really cool. Thank you guys for being so present virtually, and love meeting the Patrick Swayze version of you, Harrison. Amazing.
Okay, any questions for Harrison?
Hi there. I was wondering, are you guys working on any simulations that would be based in severe weather?
That is a really good question. And currently, no. We've had a couple of really good conversations with a few institutes that run schools for like emergency response and like disaster training. So we've had a lot of discussions on like simulating forest fires or tornadoes or hurricanes and floods and like how do you use the technology to really train first responders and the general public for those types of situations. But we haven't started to build anything. We have built a wind turbine farm that is very windy, but I wouldn't necessarily call that severe weather.
Interesting. Oh, I'll email you then. So.
Next one.
Great question. Any more?
Yes. I'm thinking of an application. There's such a shortage in skilled craftsman jobs, and we have such an abundance of youth. I'm just wondering whether or not there might not be an application for you to work on. Not me, because I'm not a techie, but it just seems to me that the opportunity to create this kind of virtual reality training for young people who are so into gaming and don't realize the opportunities in skilled labor like electricians, plumbers, masons, all kinds of things. It seems to me that you're sitting on a gold mine. It's more of a statement, but
I have a question. We're seeing your avatar, but I wonder if you could share the screen of you, not the avatar, because I think that would kind of blow everyone's mind.
Thanks, David. That's
And where are the glasses? Where are the goggles? Thank you.
You look very distinguished both ways, just so you know. Great. Thank you, Harrison. This is amazing.
Hi.
any.
Yes.
We've got another question back here.
Yes, hi. I had a question, just kind of segues from your glasses comment. A lot of people with disabilities also have PTSD, and I know, like, in the long term, headsets are going to go into glasses, but in the short term, what kind of accommodations could be made to the headset so that you're not, addressing, like, feeling enclosed and not being able to see your actual environment?
Great question. And we've seen like some companies make big strides in this. Like I think Apple is probably one of the companies that has made the most progress because from an accessibility perspective, although you can't wear glasses in the headset by default, they did partner up with different companies that make lens inserts. And then they've also been really big on this concept of like mixed reality or spatial computing. So when I wear that headset, if you're in person with me, you kind of see my eyes through
I just wanted to make one last comment too, just knowing the history of FedCap being rooted in finding jobs for veterans after the war. I think it's just wonderful to see that FedCap has stayed true to that mission into this next generation, and I think this is going to help a lot of people. Once again, we just so much appreciate taking the time to share with us both Harrison's and the great work that you're doing, all of you at FedCap VR.
Harrison, oh, shoot. Harrison, I just wanted to, did we cover the Ask Offer? Awesome. Thanks again, Harrison. Really appreciate it. Okay, and to wrap up the demo section or segment of our evening is Karina Nagin, Executive Director of Bridging Voice. Bridging Voice enables and empowers people with neurodegenerative disorders to communicate by removing the barriers between them and assistive technology. Welcome, Karina.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thank you to the organizers and all the presenters. I got so wrapped up in the presentations, I forgot I had to go, so that was a little bit of a shock. But I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Karina. I'm the executive director. I'm also joined by Nahum Lehman, who's hiding in the audience, who's our technical director, and is excited to chat with all of you after the presentation. Just to get a little more specific, Bridging Voice is a nonprofit. We help ALS clients by providing the support that they need with their assistive technology to be able to communicate, and we do it all for free. And just a little background for those of you who might not be familiar with ALS. It is a neurodegenerative disease. It leaves people completely paralyzed and locked in their body and unable to communicate. The kicker is that your mind is completely intact. For those of you, depending how old you are, you might know it as Lou Gehrig's disease, or you might be familiar with the Ice Bucket Challenge. But the example I really like to give is Stephen Hawking, because despite being paralyzed because of ALS, he was able to continue working, presenting, publishing because of assistive technology. And the assistive technology that many people who have ALS end up using is eye tracking, which simply put, you're controlling the computer with your eyes. Harrison was using the cool newest technology of the Apple Vision Pro, which uses eye tracking. And that's what we work with. I think one thing that's important to note is we are not manufacturing the hardware, but we are working with ALS patients to make sure they get the right technology and then, most importantly, are able to use it. And we do that in a very holistic way. We're providing education on the technologies that exist, which are constantly changing. We provide assistance obtaining that technology, and most importantly, we provide help with the training, technical support, and customizations that are needed to actually use the technology. It was estimated that almost 80% of ALS patients, even when they got the assistive technology they needed, weren't using it. It was the issue of technology abandonment because they weren't getting the training and support that they needed. And in the 5 years that Bridging Voice has existed, we have found that 93% of our clients are able to communicate using eye tracking because they're getting the technical training and support that they need. I feel like I could give an hour-long TED Talk on why training and support is essential for technology to actually have a social impact, but that's not why I'm here. I'm going to talk about our innovations. Because while basic communication is important, we want to go beyond basic communication. We want to provide joy and fun to the clients that we work with. So I'm going to present to you one of the many customizations that we're providing our clients, and that is an integration with ChatGPT, which I'm sure everyone here is familiar with. We created a simple software to integrate ChatGPT into eye trackers. So what you're looking at here is what you would see on your eye tracker, a simple keyboard, which you would look at with your eyes, control your mouse, and be able to type simple sentences. The challenge is with eye tracking is that it's really exhausting and it's difficult and it's really slow. So our average client is probably typing just a couple of words per minute. What you're seeing here is this isn't using the eye tracking, they're actually typing a sentence, so it's much faster for time's sake. But that means that they're communicating in really broken sentences. But by integrating ChatGPT, we're able to take a simple sentence and generate a robust paragraph. And what this enables our clients to do is to really be able to be part of conversations, not be spoken over, and really just have a much more robust conversation experience. So I want to show you one example of how we customize this for a specific client. So April is a client of ours. She's a young mother. She's in her 30s. She was diagnosed with ALS, progressed very quickly, and she is almost completely paralyzed. She has 3 young children. We helped her get her eye tracker so she was able to communicate. And then we used the innovation of the ChatGPT integration so that she could create bedtime stories for her children. So by typing in a couple of words or parameters, she was able to then generate a story that was specific for her children. And this did 2 things. One, it made it possible for her to really be part of her family, be part of that bedtime story process. It also made the technology less scary for her children. And instead, it was something they were excited to experience. So here's just a short clip of April using that feature.
Story time, kids. Once upon a time, in a small coastal town by the sea, there were 3 young siblings named Riker, Ava, and Jax.
And so this goes on to tell a full 5-minute story, which she tells her children every night, and which has just completely changed their relationship and how she's able to use her technology to relate to her children. Just quickly, our overall impact, we've worked with over 2,500 ALS patients across the country. We've helped them get the technology that they need, and hundreds of our clients are using our customizations, we have dozens of them, to be able to not just communicate, but really interact and continue to have the quality of life that they want. I think what summarizes it best is a testimonial from one of our clients, Paul, who said, "As a recipient of your services and on behalf of all people with ALS, I want to thank you for helping us live instead of just being alive." And I think that that is the goal for all technology, is not technology for technology's sake, but how can we use it to really improve people's lives. So thank you very much. Almost on time. And I guess I forgot our sort of give ask is, our give is that all the technology we create is free. We provide it for free. We're working specifically with the ALS population, but I think a lot of the things that we're creating are relevant to people using eye trackers and a lot of other neurodegenerative diseases and other applications. So if anyone is interested in that, we always love to collaborate and provide those. And I think our ask is, if you know anyone with ALS, send them our way. We feel that we should be working with everyone across the country who has the disease. And also, if you're a technologist and interested in working with eye trackers and have thoughts, we always love to chat and are excited to chat with you afterwards. Thank you.
Questions for Karina? You said it would be an emotional end, and you did not disappoint, Karina. I was already getting verklempt with that last quote. Questions?
Yeah, is this technology patented?
So eye trackers, there are several companies who are creating eye trackers, and so we're not actually creating the eye trackers themselves. The customizations that we create for them to make sure that people can actually use them is not patented. So it is open and free, and we provide it free of charge to anyone who can benefit from it.
So you're curating it?
So the customizations that we're creating are often software customizations, not hardware. And yeah, those we're creating for free and sharing.
Thank you.
So, how important is the ability for software to be adaptable when it comes? Well, we're now seeing a very degenerative disorder that requires the software to be something that adapts to the user as their illness progresses. So I would expect that the software be equally adaptable. Is that something that you see, or is that something that you have to create?
Well, I'll take a stab at this, and then Nahum, you can add on. But I think the reason that we were created as an organization is that there was this real gap between the incredible technology that was out there with eye tracking and if people were able to use it. So people were creating sort of amazing eye trackers and software and all of these things that said it's going to help people. And then what we saw, our founding team who was working with the ALS population, is that people either didn't know about the technology, and even when they got it, they weren't using it. Like I said, 80% would get an incredible piece of technology and it would become a paperweight. So we found that the customizations were really needed to enable people to use it and to customize it for what they wanted to do, right? So bedtime stories, that is something that really engaged April and really made her want to use her eye tracker and engage with her children. And so I think the desire of how you're going to use something is just as important as what it can do. Anything? Yeah, great.
In the video you shared with us with April, was that live, real time that was coming through, or did she record that? I wasn't clear about that.
Yeah, great question. So she had, before the video started, she had typed in, and I can't remember the exact prompts that she had typed in, but she had typed in just a few words. So I think she had typed in her children's names and said, story by the sea. Something as simple as that. So she had already typed that in, which, as I said, eye tracking can be very slow. That could have taken her 2 minutes to do, so we didn't include that part. But then because the ChatGPT was integrated into it, and we had customized it to know that it was going to create a children's story based on those prompts, that happened real time. And that's the part that's much faster than her trying to type a full bedtime story for her children. So for her to try and type a full 5-minute bedtime story could take her all day. But in 2 minutes, she could type in a couple of prompts, and ChatGPT would generate the bedtime story.
Val Sellian here, founder and director at NYC Organics. Right. Are you a private enterprise or are you state funded?
We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Everything that, all of the training, technical support, education that we do is all free of charge. That was one of the things that we decided when we were founded. ALS is such an overwhelming disease and so costly that we didn't feel that finances should be a barrier for someone's ability to communicate. So all of our funding comes from individual donations, grants. Like any nonprofit, you get scrappy.
Thank you so much. I was wondering if you, for anyone who's being represented by ChatGPT and AI, did they talk about how that felt? Because obviously it's,
yeah, great.
Like not them
yeah.
too. So I was just wondering if there was any feedback about that.
Such a good question. It was one of our, and this is something sort of hot off the press that we have just created. And I think that was the initial question, is how good would it be at representing what they wanted to say? And so far it has been very good. We make the caveat in who we're creating it for. You would not use this if you were trying to ask a question of your medical professional, because it probably could go off track. But for simple, the 2 examples you saw of someone being able to say hi, I'm having a really sucky day, for someone to sit there and wait for 2 minutes for you to type that out versus to have a fluent whole paragraph that is much more eloquent and feels like a human talking instead of just trying to get to the point because it's taking you so long to talk. It does that really well. We have about, like I said, this is hot off the press. We have about 12 of our clients are actively using this customization, but we have about a dozen other customizations that do different things that hundreds of people are using. So we roll it out slowly. So far, people have been really happy with that. Nahum, what do you think? How's the accuracy?
Like it.
Oh, that's a great point.
If they don't like it, they can press the button again and get a whole different version and then speak it out.
Hello. So how do you guys manage the cost associated with using ChatGPT? Because I know that it can be expensive, like because if you're using the API, and I know that, of course, I mean it has a free version, but I mean I guess for this type of application, I guess it can be expensive. So how do you guys think about managing that part?
Also a great question. Go ahead, Nachum. I'll just let you jump in.
That's where we're watching it.
That's my question as the executive director. I was like, he's like, we're going to cover all the costs. I was like, how much is it, Nachum? He's like, we spent 50 cents this month. So far it's been very cost effective.
David, we get a question from Dennis in the back.
I was just thinking about the first presentation. Why wouldn't you connect what Steno is doing and use the shorthand, and then use ChatGPT to fix that?
Nachum has thoughts. All of these presentations were picking so many ideas for us. We need to talk, but I know Nachum already has a thought.
My brain was flying while I was watching that presentation. But the main reason is because you can only click one button at a time with your eyes. So we can't get the chords. But I was going to be looking into that after this during the networking. So
Next meetup, I would love to bring an eye tracker and have people actually try and type with their eyes. It's both incredible and incredibly exhausting for your brain.
I also wouldn't be surprised if Mirabai has some thoughts on how we can augment that. This is really exciting for a number of reasons. As I'm hearing everyone's presentations, from Thomas's Polly to this, communication timing is everything, and that moment of connection can be lost. And to see that so many of the solutions today are bridging that gap. Well, actually, pun intended, but it's really powerful to see, and I just want to say thank you to Bridging the Gap, but also I kind of had a comment/question, which is I think one of the biggest frustrations that I had since AT&T Connectability Challenge. We awarded great tech. We were hoping that things would come out of it, and a lot of the projects that we funded fell to the wayside. Nobody heard about it. And so I think this is a general question, not just for you guys, but how do we make sure that proverbial tree gets heard, and is seen? And I just think there's so many things. For example, Microsoft has an ability through Microsoft 365 to sorry, Mirabai, but to auto-caption all your PowerPoints. And if you can't hire Mirabai, which is, of course, the first choice, the fact that people don't even know this is an option. And so I've seen so much tech in the last 9 years since Connectability Challenge come through that nobody knows about. So, I mean, that's maybe also an offer of the audience. If you have ideas on how to make sure that Bridging the Gap, FedCap VR, equal entry, all these wonderful, and Poly, wonderful things get, shared and known. That's just a constant question that I have and a constant quest that I have. Back to you, Doug.
Thanks, Jen. And thank you. Karina. I almost went there. So, and a big round of applause for all the demoers tonight. You guys did an amazing, amazing job. This is, we like to end the evening with a community ask offer from the audience. So if any of you have your own projects or things you'd like to share, now's the time. Please come up or stand up. We'll pass the mic. Anything you want to ask from everyone here or something you have to offer? We've got one right here. Come on up.
Greetings from, can you all hear me? Greetings from Philadelphia. Thank you for allowing me in your city. So I will be covering tonight's event. I'm starting a new blog. It's not up yet. It's called Tech Reporter, but it's misspelled. There's no E between the T and the R. So it's techreporter.com, but just remember in the word reporter, there's no E between the T and the R. So I don't want you going to a competitor's website. So that's first off. And I am looking for an investor. I am starting a matchmaking website. I have a couple technology people that are working with me, but we're looking for capital investment. So any investors in the room want to join me in my multi-gazillion billion-dollar opportunity? Let me know. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks for coming up.
I saw a couple more hands.
We have a couple more? Come on up, Vlad.
Hi, everyone. We organized a Brooklyn Tech Expo June 6th as part of New York Tech Week. Check it out, pulse.nyc, or just find me here. I'll share the info.
Okay, thanks, Vlad. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. This is Val Salient, founder and CTO of Funeral, the official funeral app. So I'm currently looking for coders. So if you can code, I need your help. Also investors, and we're soon to be slated in Microsoft's accelerator program. So super excited about that. So once again, find me at the networking table, I guess. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, we got one more. Come on up.
My name is Maxwell Grant, and I'm working on a startup. Actually, I'm a data architect engineer. Used to work across the street here at Con Edison. And I'm looking to curate and create a drill-down data warehouse of New York City public data. And I have a pretty, almost done with the warehouse. I'm looking for front-end developers, mainly in React and XUI. So if anybody would like to help out with this project, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Not a shy group here, thank goodness.
Okay. So let's see. Just want to have a couple more announcements and then we'll wrap up. Our next event will be on Thursday, May 29, called Nailing the Investor Pitch. It's a workshop for startup founders and co-produced and sponsored by Ellis Law Group. This will be an online event focused on helping founders and their teams prep for pitches to investment companies. And registration is going to be open this week. And you can find, actually, Paul Ellis and Camille in the back of the room at their table. There they are. And feel free to have a conversation with them afterwards. And the next meetup will be on Monday, June 10. We'll be announcing demos and opening registration soon, and hope you can join us. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the demos. Again, each demo has a table in the back of the room. Feel free to approach them and chat. And we'll be rolling out the food in the bar in just a moment. So happy networking, enjoy, and hope to see you next time. Sorry, Jed.
One last thing. Hey. First of all, because New York Tech Alliance would never praise themselves, I just want to thank the Tech Alliance. As a board member, I can tell you they're even more desiring to do more inclusive work, and it's just been an honor to see how they've taken to disability tech and just making sure that the people who need to be at these tables and and in these chairs are here and demoing. So I just want to thank Doug for his leadership. This was not easy to put through, and you do this every month. I don't know how, but I just want to thank the New York Tech Alliance for being real allies in this work. Again, I want to say also, Give Beauty Wings, I mentioned that we have events. I'm hoping to have a few of those events here at the Tech Alliance, but we have events in June, July, which is Disability Pride Month. We have, Negotiating Your Worth about disability and money. I'm going to have dating workshops. And why is this important? It's because you talk about sex and money, it's awkward to begin with. But then you add disability to it, and it's even more awkward. And I'm trying to dispel that and make sure that everyone feels empowered. And I was so grateful that Doug asked me to be a part of tonight, and the fact that you guys all showed up means a lot, and that makes you also amazing allies in this work. And on that note, I was wondering if we could take a picture, a family picture, since the
Okay.
family is growing of
Okay.
yeah.
How would you like to do that?
I was thinking that the demoers and presenters and everyone could maybe sit in the front in the reserve seats that nobody sat in, and
Sure.
then we could just cuddle.
Okay.
Does that work?
If everyone can just remain in their seats just for a few more
Yeah.
minutes, we'll
Then
take
we'll
the
get to the
picture.
food, I
We want
promise.
you on the shot as well.
Okay, much love. Thank you all.